me your attention and I will show you what you've been calling a habit for what it really is. Not a flaw. Not a disease you were born with. A mechanism. One you built without ever meaning to, and one you can dismantle. You already know the pattern. Late at night. The promise that this is the last time. The disgust that comes an hour later. And then, tomorrow, the same hand reaching for the same screen, as if the promise you made yesterday belonged to someone else. You've been told this is about discipline. It isn't. Discipline is what you use once you understand what you're actually running from. And right now, you don't. You've been treating the symptom and calling it the disease. So let's find out what's underneath it. Nietzsche never wrote about pornography. He didn't need to. He wrote about something underneath it, the mechanism by which a man numbs himself rather than face what's unbearable in him. He who cannot obey himself will be commanded. Read that again. If you cannot govern your own hunger, something else will govern it for you. An algorithm, an urge, a 4-minute escape that costs you a little more of yourself every single time you take it. Here's the first thing you need to understand, and it will change how you see everything that follows. The behavior was never the disease. It was the medicine. A bad one, cheap, temporary, corrosive, but a medicine nonetheless. Somewhere underneath it is a wound you refuse to look at directly, and the compulsion is simply the fastest, cheapest anesthetic available at 2 a.m. when nothing else is open. So we are not going to talk about quitting. Quitting is what men do when they don't understand the thing they're fighting. You can white-knuckle a behavior for a week, 2 weeks, a month, and the moment the wound underneath flares up again, you'll be right back where you started, except now with the added weight of another broken promise. No, we are going underneath it, layer by layer. There are 9 of them, and most men never make it past the first 3 before they give up and call themselves broken. You are not broken. You are unexamined. There's a difference, and it matters. The first layer is numbness. Something hurts. Boredom, stress, a day that made you feel small and unseen, and the behavior mutes it. Not solves it, mutes it. A hand pressed over the mouth of an alarm that is still screaming underneath your palm. You feel the relief for 4 minutes and mistake it for peace. It isn't peace. Peace doesn't need to be repeated every night. The second is validation. Beneath the numbness is a question you've likely never said out loud. Maybe never even let yourself think in full sentences. Am I wanted? Not loved. Wanted. Those are not the same thing, though they can feel identical when you've never had enough of either. For a man who has never been certain of his own worth, being desired, even by a stranger, even by a screen, even by an image that will never know his name, feels like proof that he exists. It is a counterfeit. But counterfeit currency still spins for a moment in a mind starved enough to accept it. The third is control. Here's a contradiction worth sitting with. A man who feels powerless everywhere else in his life, at work, in his relationships, in his own house, will chase the one place where the outcome is guaranteed. No rejection, no negotiation, no risk of being turned away, judged, or found lacking. It isn't pleasure he's chasing there. It's certainty. And certainty to a man drowning in ambiguity is intoxicating in a way pleasure alone could never be. The fourth is escape from identity. Some men aren't running toward anything at all. They're running from the responsible one, the reliable one, the one who performs every hour of every day and never once gets to want something purely for himself without earning it first. The compulsion becomes the only room in the house where the performance finally stops, where nobody is watching, nobody is grading, nobody needs him to hold it together. The fifth is the attachment wound. And this is where it gets uncomfortable, because it usually traces back further than you want to look. Often to a house you grew up in, long before you had language for any of this. If closeness was unreliable when you were young, warm one day, distant or cold the next, present but never quite safe, you learned without an ever consciously choosing to, that intimacy carries risk. That people who get close enough to know you can also get close enough to hurt you. So you built a workaround. Closeness without the risk of real closeness. Intimacy with none of the exposure. The sixth is shame. And here's what almost nobody tells you about shame. It doesn't cause the behavior, it feeds it. The self-hatred that follows the act creates the exact emptiness the act was trying to numb in the first place. You are not stuck because you lack control. You are stuck in a loop where the wound and the so-called cure have become the same event. Feeding each other, each one making the next one more likely. The seventh is the fantasy of being chosen without being seen. This is an old hunger, older than any screen, to be wanted without the risk of being fully known. Fantasy offers that for free, on demand, with no possibility of rejection. Real intimacy doesn't work that way. Real intimacy demands you be seen completely. Flaws exposed, contradictions visible, the parts of you that aren't flattering. And only then chosen. That is a far more dangerous proposition than anything a screen can offer. And most men, if they're honest, are not yet strong enough for it. The eighth is grief you never let yourself feel. Sometimes what's underneath all of this isn't desire at all. It's mourning. For a relationship that ended badly and was never properly grieved. For a kind of love you needed as a child and never actually received. For the version of your life you thought you'd have by now. Grief is slow, and it aches in a way that doesn't resolve quickly, if ever. Arousal is fast, and it's over in minutes, leaving no obligation behind. Given the choice between a slow wound that demands your full attention and a quick one that asks nothing of you, most nervous systems will take the quick one every single time until someone teaches them another way. The ninth layer is the only one that actually matters. Underneath desire, underneath control, underneath grief, is a single unanswered question. Who are you when no one is watching and no one wants you? Not your job title, not your body count, not the version of you that performs for an audience, just you, alone, in the dark, with nothing to prove and no one to impress. Most men would rather stay busy, even destructively busy, even self-destructively busy, than sit still long enough to answer that question honestly. Because if the answer is, I don't know, that's a harder thing to sit with than any urge. Here's the turning point, and I want you to actually hear this, not just let it pass by. The urge was never really about lust. It was a messenger, badly dressed, badly timed, showing up at the worst possible hour, but a messenger nonetheless, carrying something that had been asking to be noticed for a long time, maybe years. The moment you stop fighting the messenger and start listening to what it's actually carrying, the shame begins to lose its grip. Not because you've forgiven yourself in some soft, therapeutic sense, because you finally stopped lying to yourself about what's actually happening underneath the surface. Nietzsche wrote, "The snake which cannot cast its skin must die." The version of you that numbs instead of feels, that chases instead of connects, that hides behind fantasy instead of risking real intimacy. That version has to be shed. Not gently, not eventually, on some vague future timeline when it's more convenient. Now, in the way you actually live, starting with how you handle the next urge that shows up. So here's what you actually do about it. Not motivation. Mechanics. Name the state, not the urge. Before you act, stop and ask what you're really feeling underneath the pull. Bored, lonely, rejected, anxious, humiliated by something that happened hours earlier. Naming the actual emotion breaks the automatic loop, because the compulsion runs on autopilot, and autopilot cannot survive full attention. Delay before you act. Not to suppress the urge and pretend it isn't there. That never works for long, but to let the wave crest and pass on its own, because most urges are far shorter lived than they feel in the moment they arrive. 15 minutes. 20. Go for a walk. Do something with your hands. The urge that feels unbearable at mine at 1 is often gone, or at least survivable, by minute 20. Build one real connection, not a replacement behavior. An actual person. A friend you can be honest with. A therapist. Someone who knows the whole truth about what you're carrying, not the curated version. Isolation is the soil this pattern grows in. It cannot survive being spoken out loud to someone who won't flinch. Separate the behavior from your worth. Shame is what keeps the cycle running longer than it needs to. A slip is information about what you were carrying that day, not a verdict on your character. Treat it like data. Ask what it was numbing, and let that be more interesting to you than punishing yourself. If it's genuinely compulsive, if it's costing you relationships, time, self-respect, and you've tried to stop on your own repeatedly and can't, get help from someone trained specifically in this. That is not weakness. That is the same instinct that made you watch this far into a video you probably almost closed twice. The refusal to stay small. You were not born to numb yourself into a smaller and smaller life with each passing year. You were born with the capacity to face what's underneath all of this. And once you actually do, the compulsion loses its power over you, because it was never stronger than you to begin with. It was just louder than the part of you that had gone quiet from disuse. Maybe the goal was never to want less. Maybe it was to finally ask what the wanting was trying to tell you, before it asks again tonight, in the same voice, expecting the same silence.